And NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show that remains your portal into Africa's most potent stories. Today, we're going to be looking at the stories from Botswana being delivered by Rorisang Mogojwe, who is in Gaborone. But prior to that, these are the stories from Rwanda, Africa. WHO chief urges Uganda to review Congo border closure over Ebola. Kenyan court affirms Gachagua's impeachment and public office ban. Kenyan police use tear gas as protesters oppose US-backed Ebola facility. And staying with Kenya, former Chief Justice Maraga arrested during Nairobi Park protest. And of course, AFCON, it starts tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about why some people believe Africa can challenge for the 2026 World Cup title. I have several reasons. They start with Sadio and they end with Mane, our AFCON champions. So that's what's coming up in the show. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top stories shortly.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative sport tourism.
All right, let's get into the top stories. The Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said that Uganda should reconsider its decision to close its border with Democratic Republic of Congo because of the Ebola outbreak. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus made the remarks during a visit to an Ebola isolation unit at a hospital in Uganda's capital, Kampala. During the visit, Tedros also praised Uganda's response to Ebola, describing it as prompt and capable. Responding to a question about Uganda's decision late last month to temporarily shut its border with Congo in an effort to limit the spread of the disease, he said blanket travel restrictions do not work and expressed hope that Ugandan authorities would reconsider the measure. The World Health Organization has declared the outbreak of the rare Bundibugyo strain of Ebola a public health emergency of international concern. The epicenter remains in Congo's Ituri province, where Africa's top public health agency says 515 confirmed cases have been recorded out of Congo's total of 544. Uganda has reported 19 confirmed Ebola cases, most involving people who entered the country from Congo. Health authorities continue monitoring developments closely across affected border regions. And now here's a video from the World Health Organization describing essentially the structure of one of their Ebola facilities.
Today, WHO and Africa CDC are launching a joint continental preparedness and response plan. The objective is straightforward. We need to stop the outbreak where it is, support countries that are responding today, and ensure that neighboring countries are ready to detect and act quickly if cases appear. There are several important features of this plan. First, it's a shared plan. The only way to beat this outbreak is through close partnership, working together under the leadership of the affected countries in one coordinated effort, guided by a simple principle: one plan, one budget, one team. Second, this is a practical plan. It sets out what we need to do now together to contain the current outbreak and reduce the risk of future or further spread. Third, it's time-bound plan covering June to November this year. And fourth, it's a costed plan at $518 million.
The response will be led by Africa with support from partners. This plan that we present today is a combination of plans from countries affected, from countries at risk, and from partners. DRC gave us the plan. Uganda gave us their plan. Each of the countries at risk gave us indication. We are working together. Today, I call upon our partners, our member states, our donors, our research institutions, our manufacturers, and the international community to step forward. I call upon the media. You are not only witnesses to this outbreak, you are part of the response. Help us to fight misinformation. Help us to amplify facts. Help us to build or rebuild trust.
Right. A Kenyan court has upheld the 2024 impeachment of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, effectively barring him from holding public office. 3 High Court judges dismissed claims by Gachagua that the impeachment process had been politically biased against him. The court, however, found that the Senate violated his rights by failing to adjourn proceedings after he fell ill during the hearings. Judges ruled that this violation did not invalidate the impeachment and awarded him 50 million shillings in compensation. Gachagua was absent when the 350-page ruling was delivered, but his legal team said they would appeal. His removal followed a fallout with President William Ruto after lawmakers voted overwhelmingly to impeach him on accusations of corruption, inciting ethnic divisions, and undermining the government. Gachagua argued the charges were baseless, politically motivated, and that he had not received a fair hearing. The court also affirmed Kithure Kindiki's appointment as his replacement. Since leaving office, Gachagua has campaigned against the government and expanded support in Mount Kenya. He urged supporters to remain calm and await future democratic processes through elections and constitutional means. So, as I said at the beginning of the show, we have a bit of focus on Kenya in our top stories. Now we're going to talk about the protests in that country. Kenyan police fired tear gas just yesterday to disperse protesters in Nanyuki, opposing a quarantine center intended for Americans exposed to Ebola. The proposed 50-bed facility is being constructed on an Air Force base despite Kenyan court orders barring further work. Many Kenyans have objected to the project, arguing that the United States is transferring the health risks associated with caring for people exposed to the Ebola outbreak in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. 2 people were killed during protests in Nanyuki last week as tensions intensified. Police dispersed small groups of demonstrators who gathered early yesterday, with one protester carrying a white cross bearing the phrase "Respect Ebola" in red lettering. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump has maintained that it cannot and will not allow Ebola cases to enter the United States. The facility is designated for Americans exposed to the virus but not showing symptoms. U.S. military aircraft have continued transporting personnel and equipment despite court orders. Satellite imagery viewed by Reuters shows an expanding cluster of white tents within Laikipia airbase. The United States says it is working with Kenya to resolve objections. Of course, when it comes to the legality of a particular situation in a country, the laws must be respected. But there's an interesting conundrum here, because on one end, as Africans, we are certainly hoping that the World Cup proceeds without much issue, more issues than they already have significantly been present. But at the same time, we want Ebola cases to go back to the US during the World Cup. I think I can see a middle ground here, and we certainly hope to see something of the same coming out of Kenya and the United States there, because at the same time, the narrative that Africa becomes a dumping ground for what Western nations do not wish to engage with is still potent in this particular case. Now, we're going to move over to another protest that happened in Kenya, and this time a former Chief Justice was arrested. Kenya's former Chief Justice David Maraga was arrested while taking part in a protest linked to allegations that development projects are planned on protected land within Nairobi National Park. Maraga joined demonstrators marching near the park, a 117 square kilometer conservation area and tourist location located within Nairobi. The Kenya Wildlife Service is accused of allocating part of the land to a neighboring convention center and planning a large new animal orphanage within the park. KWS has defended its plans, saying the relocated and expanded orphanage will improve animal welfare, veterinary training, and visitor experiences. According to a KWS official quoted by the Star newspaper, the orphanage will occupy 89 acres, representing 0.31% of the park's total area. Videos on social media showed police dispersing demonstrators and detaining people seated on a highway. Maraga, wearing colors associated with his United Green Movement party, was arrested with 9 others. He has since been released but remains at the police station pending the release of fellow activists. On X, Maraga said demonstrators sought to present a petition opposing a proposed 1,300 vehicle car park, describing the park as national heritage, requiring protection from unnecessary destruction and environmental damage. Keeping in mind that over time, Kenya has certainly taken pride in its environmental conservation, and it is something worth noting when a former Chief Justice joins the picket line. Now, the last of our top stories, we are talking about the FIFA World Cup, and we are speaking in the language of hope. An opinion piece by Amani Atta argues that African nations have a stronger opportunity than ever before to challenge for the FIFA World Cup title in 2026. The article recalls DR Congo's difficult 1974 World Cup campaign under Yugoslav coach Blagoje Vidinic, who had previously guided the team to victory at the 1974 Africa Cup of Nations. It also references Pele's prediction made after visits to Nigeria, Kenya and Uganda that an African nation would win the World Cup before 2000. While that prediction remains unrealized, African teams have achieved notable milestones, including Morocco becoming the first African nation to reach a World Cup semi-final in 2022. African representation has expanded significantly, with 10 teams qualifying for the 2026 tournament: Algeria, Cape Verde, DR Congo, Egypt, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Morocco, Senegal, South Africa, and Tunisia. The article argues that African teams no longer compete burdened by a colonial inferiority complex and no longer depend heavily on foreign coaches. 7 of the 10 qualified African teams are led by African coaches, including Walid Regragui, Pape Thiaw, Emes Faye, Sami Trabelsi, Hossam Hassan, Otto Addo, and Pedro Leitao Brito. And as we said, we are keeping fingers crossed for Africa. We know that there's a bit of a balance of opinion with regards to who Africans want to win between Mexico and South Africa. You should go on social media and figure out why that one is seemingly split in the middle. This is Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we'll be joined by Rorisang Mogojwe as she delivers the Botswana Report. But prior to that, let's have a look at the weather. All right, it's time for us to talk to Rorisang Mogojwe as she delivers the Botswana Report. Dumela, Rorisang.
Good morning, Dumelang Kohai. Thank you so much for having me on Africa. Good morning.
It's good to have you here, Rory. Now, in your first story, human rights organization Lekhabibo has applied to join Botswana's landmark marriage equality case as a friend of the court.
The application brought by Lekhabibo, or the Lesbians, Gays and Bisexuals of Botswana organization, comes as the High Court prepares to hear a constitutional challenge which was brought by queer couple Bonolo Selilo and Tsolofelo Gumile, who are seeking legal recognition of same-sex marriage in Botswana. And so the applicants are arguing that the provisions of Botswana's Marriage Act currently are unconstitutional because they restrict civil marriage to opposite-sex couples, and so this effectively excludes same-sex partners from accessing the same legal protections and benefits which are associated with marriage. According to court documents, this challenge raises issues of equality, dignity, and freedom from discrimination, and so the applicants are contending that same-sex couples are denied rights that married couples normally enjoy, which includes inheritance rights and economic protections, and just the ability to make important medical decisions on behalf of their partners. And these are benefits and rights that come with marriage, right? And so Lekhabibo says that its application is intended to assist the court by providing perspectives and information relating to the lived experiences of the LGBTI community in Botswana. It argues that the outcome of the case could have far-reaching consequences for members of the LGBTIQ plus community, and that their voices should be represented during these proceedings. The case was initially meant to be heard on Monday, but it has been postponed to the 14th of July to allow all the parties enough time to file and exchange their legal arguments before the hearing proceeds. Meanwhile, though, the case has also attracted interest from a number of other organizations that are wanting or seeking to participate in the proceedings, and these parties include the Botswana House of Churches and the Evangelical Fellowship of Botswana, who have also applied, as well as the Dingwetsi Association. That's an association of married women, and these parties have applied to join the matter, and they are opposing, or they will be opposing, this legal challenge on religious and cultural grounds. This case has attracted significant public sentiment, from across the country, because it is the first of its kind in Botswana where the Marriage Act is being challenged. The constitutionality of it is being challenged in the country, and so the High Court is expected to determine these various applications before proceeding to hear these constitutional issues that are expected to be raised in the case. This matter has been closely watched by legal experts from Botswana and across the African continent, especially even the world, as well as civil society organizations and religious groups. Its outcomes are expected to have a significant impact on the future interpretation of marriage rights in Botswana.
All right, Rorisang, now exciting things coming from the BDC. Tell us about the Botswana World Trade Center.
Thank you, Ashwin. Now, this project is valued at approximately 26.6 billion pula, and it is being developed through a partnership between the government of Botswana and a Dubai-based construction firm, the Al Badad Group. And once it is completed, the Botswana World Trade Center is expected to serve as a major hub for trade, for investment, exhibition, conferences, as well as business tourism and international commerce. However, a notable and key feature of this development development is the anticipated impact on employment. It is expected to create between 25,000 and 37,500 jobs across various sectors, including in construction, retail, logistics, business services, and tourism, as well as hospitality. Now, when he was launching this project at the groundbreaking ceremony, President Maboko described it as an important investment into the country's future, saying that it forms part of efforts to build a more diversified and more resilient economy that is less dependent on diamonds, as we have seen that the economy of Botswana has taken a hit due to declining diamond sales and revenues. And so authorities are saying that this project will strengthen the country's ongoing economic diversification agenda by creating modern infrastructure which is aimed at attracting investors and supporting private sector growth. And so the country is expecting this project at the new airport city that is currently under construction to position and strengthen Botswana's position rather as a gateway for regional and global business activity.
All right, we're going to have to say goodbye there. Thank you very much, Rorisang, for delivering the Botswana Report. Africa Good Morning returns tomorrow with, of course, the stories from broader Africa. But also, our correspondent Ari Hohat will be bringing us the latest from Mzansi in his South Africa report. DSTV285 GOTV 25, 1up2.com, Network Media Hub, and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. That is where you can always watch the show. So, for now, we say Swera Zhakanaka as we leave you with the economic indicator.